Take a trip with us down memory lane. Stay tuned. Welcome to today's edition of NoteSchool TV, and we are celebrating a milestone today, episode 260, and we are just ecstatic to have been with you guys and bringing you the best information, calling the ball for the last 5 years. So with that, I want to bring on the man who made this all possible, founder of NoteSchool, NoteSchool's chief visionary officer, all-around good guy, my friend, Mr. Eddie Steed.
Good morning.
Well, hey, man, this is a huge milestone for us, I think.
5 years. 5 years. And we're going to kind of take a whirlwind today of what we've talked about in 5 years. We're not really going to tell stories today about the students and the members and
right.
transactions. We're going to talk about today what we really put a lot of value in, Joe, is us essentially looking at a crazy market since October of 2020 to today, and the real estate cycles and all the things that happen, and what we believe is important, because sometimes, Joe, occasionally gray hair and experience matters.
You got that right, my friend.
All right, well, let's show these slides here, and we're going to just kind of click down through really, where we were kind of each year and what we thought were kind of the highlights of the year or what we really saw. So, Joe, let's go back October of 2020, episode number 21. And really, as I said today, this is kind of a 40,000-foot view of what we've done over the past 5 years. And Joe, we talk about like countless times, like we would like to put a lot of value of what we call under the water, right? Not above the surface, but what's under the water, like what's down here that's driving the market conditions that we need to pay attention to, right?
There's always the undercurrent.
And as they say in a flight carrier, like call the ball, right?
Yep.
And so a lot to be said about that. So what we really saw in 2020, Joe, was rent moratorium, and like landlords, about 25% of tenants weren't paying rent.
Yeah.
And then we saw this kind of FOMO of both single family and multifamily, like people losing their minds.
Yeah. And
kind of overpaying for property. And but what was really behind the scenes was kind of a hardship for landlords. And then, we saw interest rates at like literally 2% interest. So,
Eddie, Joe, that was the first slide we ever posted on NoteSchool TV. Was that one right there?
Right. Yeah. That's what was happening that year. And for sure. Yeah. But what we started seeing is financial stress from investors and landlords. And we started kind of calling the ball on this, because let me tell you something, Joe, a lot of people in the industry act like this didn't exist.
I think that's right.
And so we started seeing the impact of the pandemic and started seeing the levels of delinquency. And Joe, it was this is percentage of landlords that weren't paying. And at the point there, this unit right here, 36% of people with 6 to 10 units weren't paying. Crazy number, right? And but we started really paying attention to this because we felt like this was going to stress the market.
Yeah.
Listen, Joe, there were times I had to take a sabbatical from going to some of the real estate groups I was in. I'm not kidding. Adam, our producer, will tell you, like, I can't take it. They're just ignoring things that I think are really important. So anyway, Joe, talk about this for a second.
So how are the landlords impacted? So, they weren't charging late fees, and they were forgiving rents, and, their debt ratios, and it was a mess, right? So
covering up the problem one way after another.
From one side to the other. And it's just what was going on. Landlords were
more of the same, right?
More of the same. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah,
Defer
forgiving
rent.
rent.
It was a crazy number, and that was compared 2019 to 2020, and it was just wild times. Even though people were getting government checks, you really couldn't evict somebody. You couldn't do anything about it. In fact, you couldn't foreclose on anybody, right?
You could not.
And so all of a sudden, now that was a crazy year, 2020, and then we went through October of 21, and Joe, I'm going to say if I could take credit for one single thing that we called first.
Yep.
Was that when we started seeing inflation, we said there is a big problem. You can, by the way, you can fact check us.
Yes.
Okay. But I started saying, Joe, I've got a bad feeling about interest rates. I said, I started in this business in 1980. I've lived through other interest rate cycles. And I'm saying this is things. And then the other thing that we started calling, which was very, very unpopular, like really unpopular.
Yeah. We
started calling a big problem with multifamily. And then we could see things. We could see some cheeks in the armor.
Yep.
Right. Big time. So first of all, we started paying the fact that the rates were drifting up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big factor. And we said, look, this is, as they said, you ain't seen nothing yet. That's what we were saying back then.
That's right.
And anyway, so yeah, flipping
was buying too many
fast.
houses for too high a price, and they figured their tech wasn't working real well, Eddie. So they just stopped. Right.
These were the daddies.
Yeah,
I mean, these were iBuyers that were daddies in the business. And then all of a sudden, Joe, we started really talking about delinquency and what that really means in the market, right?
Look at the climb there on the bottom graph there from September of 2020 as it goes across, right? All the way up to 6.66%. I mean,
yeah,
we started calling that ball for sure.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. I mean, it's like, and to us, it was, it started out here, right? Mm-hmm. And it just kept going up. And we kept saying, like, can't everybody see this? Surely everybody can see this.
Yes.
And we were kind of talking about it month by month. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like, Joe, we just thought we were old and gray and didn't know anything at some point.
And some people thought we were.
Listen, people were calling us crazy. Right? Not everybody, but I mean, there were people that said, these old guys don't know what they're talking about. So all of a sudden, originations dropped like a rock, which we predicted was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you say, well, how did you predict it? How are you guys so smart? Listen, inflation leads to rates.
Tip.
You ain't got to be, you don't have to be brilliant to go know this, right? So now all of a sudden in October of 22, we've got the other factor is mortgage rates near 7%. And Joe, I mean, like literally, you're talking about increasing like a rocket. And I mean, everything in real estate just got weird. By the way, house buyers were killing it back then.
Yes.
Right? Because they were buying houses that normally the realtors could buy because they could sell them to the hedge funds for more money than they were fair market value. It's a wild market. So
yes.
Not everything was dropping, right? There was just another thing happening in real estate. So originations, Joe, this was kind of the blight of where we're at with the originations, and it just got worse and worse. And they kept predicting, like they did 4.5 trillion in 21, and now they were saying they were going to do half that number in 22. Originations dropped in half. Now, by the way, let me give you a go forward update. They're going to do 450 billion this year,
compared to 4.5 trillion in 2021.
Joe, is that a 90% drop from 21 till this year?
We're not that great at math, but I think we can figure that out.
So obviously inflation became the big thing. And when Joe and I went back, Joe, and I'm saying, I remember this really, when this started happening right in here.
Yeah.
And you can go back and fact check us when this started happening right in here. And this is really before rates started rising.
Yeah.
Right. I'm saying, I said, Joe, I feel a cold chill.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not going to work out well. And literally we were talking about this on NoteSchool TV along the way. So what happens to housing when that happens? And look at the drops. Yep. So the market activity were that loans became unaffordable and the market froze up. And realtors have taken it in the chin, right? I mean, they were doing great and all of a sudden they've taken it in the chin. And I know a lot of people had to reposition their business.
Well, they were forced to, yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's move forward. We're in the fall of 2023. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to do a write-in here. So, because I know that there's something else that I just added to the slides, Joe, and that is that delinquency is something that we started trying to really figure out what was happening with resi delinquency.
Yes.
Because there was something weird going on. Commercial, we felt like we'd called the ball, and I like what you said, like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
We did. We called it, and now all of a sudden it was happening. And like, were we smart? No, I'm just saying that there was every data slide out there. I had a friend, I was riding down the road the other day, and I had a smart friend that was riding with me, and he said, there's no intelligence in emotions.
That's it.
All right, Joe, talk about this.
Market's in a bubble, baby. In mortgage market's insider. And now, you know, and the people that saw this coming were people that saw kind of the last crash, but it's just a supply demand imbalance. And that's what we look at here. Former chair of the Fed said, or the FDIC said, 2008 crash said home prices are likely to ease anytime soon. And it's just, we were living in that bubble where, and it's like the perfect storm. Everything was boiling up together with rates going up and people not being able to afford to buy a house because they needed to make twice as much money as they did 3 years earlier. And it was all coming to the surface.
So, Joe, this was in October.
I had to laugh at that, you know, when you see it.
And rates from 2 years before at 2%, 2.2, and then all of a sudden rates, you know, are 2020, right? They were at 2.2, and now all of a sudden you see them, and it's just wild. And so we you know, the market's reacting to it. Joe, we've been calling the ball on commercial for a while.
Yes.
And so these are balloons coming due. These are maturities on commercial mortgages, and they're GSE loans or life insurance loans, CMBS loans, and bank loans. And banks were the biggest lion's share of this each year. So if you look at the purple, that's the banks, and they're the lion's share. And the banks had made a lot of loans with balloons, and they were coming due. And let me just tell you something. We could see the train coming down the track on this one. And Joe, I got to tell you something. The last people to figure this out, sadly, were the people that were invested in this.
That's right.
And I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying there weren't some people that saw the bomb, but a lot of people. I went to events in 2023. Had a whole bunch of multifamily people there. And I'm like, well, you see what's going on, right? You can see like the TREP reports and the Fannie Mae mid-year reports, like everything out there says there's a bomb. Yeah. And TREP, by the way, is kind of the gold standard for commercial real estate, and they were calling the ball on this like pretty hard.
And Eddie, when these folks that were in this space, when they started, and everything was, going to grow to the skies, right? And we used to, I think I put that graphic in there because we talked about that a lot. And the rates were never going to change, right? And they got a 2.5% loan that ballooned in 2 to 3 years, and they didn't have to pay any payments. They paid interest only payments. And boy, when it went to 7.5, 7, it just broke that machine, that debt machine.
All right, so here was apartments.
Yep.
Here was apartments, and you could see a fade in value that was shocking.
Yeah.
Right. So it peaked here. And these are after like people are still acting like multifamily's hot. Oh, we're crushing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Like your office, everybody called office. Oh, office is terrible. Well, let me just tell you something. If you look at office and multifamily, it wasn't far off the same trajectory.
No.
So understand that we just looked at it and said, it's already happening. Like, come on, guys, it's already happening. By the way, we're just quoting news sources. This was Market Watch, which is the online, and we had the TREP report. Like, we weren't out there just making up stuff. We were just quoting like pretty commonly sourced information. And look at here, Joe, at volume delinquency. So look at like the loan production just fell off the chart.
Yeah.
This was both family, and this was for multifamily loans. Once again, it was in the TREP reports. Like, we're just saying, like, we were just trying to point people to the obvious. Don't believe us. Just go do your research.
Just do your research. Just the facts.
And I know so many people that lost a fortune in doing this and not stopping.
No.
Like, it kind of frustrated us.
Yeah.
People say, well, you're trying to drag us over to your side. I'm trying to say, just get to the beach. What we do.
Land the plane, right?
And then rent, asking rents were dropping. So everything about expenses were going up and rents were going down. They were going in the wrong direction here. Okay. In the middle of all this, Joe, John Burns apparently had been watching NoteSchool TV.
I think he was.
He had to have been watching NoteSchool TV. Because he basically come out and said on a starter home, people's mortgage payment is $1,000 more than their rent. And so what he really was saying here is, if this is the baseline for rent right here, right? Yep. And people's mortgage payment, people's rent is below that, and people's mortgage payment are way up here, right? So this was rent, and this was people's mortgage payment. And that was basically what he was saying. Yeah. When he said that, we rode that pony hard because we just knew it was true. And I said, instantly when this happened, this tells me it's more profitably the bank than the landlord.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Joe, that was in June of 2023.
Yes.
When I went out with that information and spoke to a lot of real estate groups in June, in July, and in August and September of 23, nobody could hear me. Like, literally none of the residential landlords could hear me. Now, they can hear me really loud now, but they couldn't hear me back then. I was too early. I called it too early, quite honestly. Right. And we did a comparison and showed people rent versus seller finance note. And we said it was $1,000 more. It is time to be the bank. Mm-hmm. That was in June of 23.
That's right.
Joe, we looked at mortgage delinquency, and this was at the end of the year, and we started noticing there was a problem. Yeah. And we saw loans that were delinquent, not in foreclosure, or loans in foreclosure were 1,000 days, and loans that were not in foreclosure were 353 days delinquent. Now, Joe, this is going to seem like a joke compared to where it ended up this year.
Today, yeah.
It's going to seem like a joke because basically they just froze and stopped foreclosing on anybody from 2022 92 all the way to 2000, beginning in 25. Like they just stopped foreclosing.
Yep.
You can say it's not politics, but it sure smells like it.
Yeah, it looks like it and smells like it. It probably is.
All right, home sales plummeted. John Burns makes predictions. Multifamily woes continue. Like all of a sudden by now, everybody's figured out there's a problem. Joe, it's not true. The trees were not going to grow to the sky.
Yep. We said that every episode that year. Yeah, in 2024. Yeah.
It was driving us crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we felt like we were saying something that, like, there's a difference between yelling fire in the theater,
right,
and when you're standing outside and you see the fire coming out of the top of the theater.
Yeah,
like you got to let people know.
Yeah, you do.
But they were a little slow in hearing us. Yeah. I had some challenged friend relationships over this.
Right.
Joe.
Yes.
Now, most of which are speaking to me again.
Boy, I wish I'd have listened to you back then. I wouldn't have gotten in all those JVs.
This was a slide we were showing back in 2023. And by 2024, they had already burned their fingers. And by now that it's already gotten a lot worse. Yeah. So we started seeing this over and over in existing home sales, seasonally adjusted. And then all of a sudden we started seeing like, just the numbers were just terrible. Like, I mean, like plummeting.
Yep.
Right. And Joe, if you look at it now, it's way off even again this year, even worse, a little spike in there. And it's just to think about the FOMO that we had in 2020 and to think about how all that changed. It's just pretty wild.
It is.
Look at the spike. Look at the spike up in 2020.
Yeah.
Is that wild? You remember those days?
Yeah. And it was great. It did. It was like nothing was happening and the rates dropped and people just went out and went nuts.
And they couldn't get a loan for more than contract price plus their down payment. And they were just paying these over like 125% over that anyway.
Yeah.
So John Burns then really came back and talked about optimism.
Yeah.
Right. And he talked about optimism in the market, and everybody was very pessimistic on office, but they were very optimistic on retail. Mm-hmm. And they were more optimistic in multifamily than they should have been, because this did not turn out to be true. This was optimism, not necessarily data-driven information. This is what people wanted to happen.
What they felt, yeah. They wanted to happen, yeah.
They wanted it to happen. And then all of a sudden, more news comes out, and the losses are just crazy in 23. This is in 23 now, but let me tell you something. It got way worse.
Well,
right?
It was 480 billion in 24, Eddie, there. So yeah, so it went from
August of that year, the Wall Street Journal comes out with a crazy article, and it said offices are toxic, but apartment loans are in bad shape too. And it basically said, here, the blue is the current distress and the orange is what they project it will be. And I just want to show you, office was here and here was apartments.
Yeah.
And so what had happened so far was in blue, but what they predicted to happen was in orange. And when we showed people this, they thought we were flat out of our minds. We said, look, it was just an article in the Wall Street Journal.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes gray hair matters, Joe.
Yeah, sometimes it matters a little bit.
13-year
low,
about this.
Right? Tough to terrible headline, right? 13-year low. Stay high. Inventory expected to stay low. Rates may climb even further. And Fannie or Freddie said it requires a monthly principal and interest payment of $25.28 to afford a median priced home, and that's with a 20% down payment. So it just the affordability, people needed to make, I think, $107,000 a year to be able to afford the monthly payment. And that had gone up from about $60,000 a year.
All right. So Joe,
here we are.
As the table turns.
Yep.
So one of the things that we had been tracking all throughout this, right, is that we've been tracking year over year listings, right? And we've been looking at these states, and the average is in about 130% year over year listings. And we started tracking how much of your monthly income your mortgage payment would cover, how many days in the month it would cover. And we were in Texas, and we said, well, we're in Texas. It's only, you only got to work, and look at Florida, Joe. You're in Florida. It was 19 days, right? I'm going to use a different color.
So you had to work damn near 3 weeks to make the payment. And
the truth of the matter is that, look at California.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I think Hawaii was 33. I don't know how that works, Joe. I'm not sure how that works. 33 days out of the month just to make your mortgage payment. Yeah. These are the number of days you had to work a month just to make your mortgage payment. Yeah. And so before it was really talking about affordability. Joe, we've been calling this ball. We've been calling this ball since, no kidding, since we saw this spike back then.
Yeah.
Since we saw this spike in 23, we have been calling the ball on growing inventory of home builders. Yeah. Okay. So we went back and we discussed this along the way. I sent numerous personal friends, some people that were in hard money lending and other things. I'd sent them little special notices and said, you guys need to pay attention to this. Mm-hmm. And the answer is, it just kept going up. Yeah. The unsold inventory of home builders went up. And Joe, this isn't even the latest, but this was the beginning of 25, and it's just gotten worse.
It has.
And so once again, it's a lot of people that were selling existing homes or involved in the existing home business. They never thought home builders they never thought that was in the equation.
Yeah.
Right. Joe, this is the latest one that we posted. Now, this is in April, and it's just about the same.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it said 2 years prior?
It was 1,000 and
2 years prior, about 300 days here, and it was 1,000 days here.
Yep.
So loans that are not in foreclosure, but 90 days delinquent, the average days delinquent is 700 days, right?
And there's nearly 911,000 of those that are sitting in that bucket, Eddie.
So the reason we monitor this is not just to know what shadow inventory is, but we also are trying to say, when are we going to see an onslaught of non-performing notes? And the answer is, Joe, I think everybody in the industry at this point says, who knows?
Yeah. Only the shadow now.
We thought a new administration was going to change all this. Like it's not explainable, but this is what the market is.
Yeah. And and one of the other things that we said was it really wasn't fair for these people that were in there, because it just keeps eroding the default interest rate, just keeps eroding their any equity that they've gained as prices went up.
Go back and listen to a special interview that we did in around the 1st of February of 2025 that I did with Darren Bloomquist, which is the data guy for auction.com. And we spent over an hour talking about all of these numbers and really dug down into it at a really deep level. So, Joe, and then our thesis this year said it's the great battle. It's rentals versus seller financing. And we started showing people they could make 2.5 times the income, the 2.5 times the net income. Let me clarify that. Net income, seller financing the same house that they rented. And we started talking about why that was true. and really looking at expenses and how they went. The expense creep, as they call it, went way up higher than the income went up with the increased rental amounts. And who drank your milkshake, right?
Yeah.
And then we started really showing people some math and how this worked. And really what we really demonstrated was in 2000, we took the same house, and that in 2018, you could make an 8 cap. But you take the identical house today, and it's making a 4 cap. And so rentals weren't making money. And we said you got an increase in value. That was true, but it wasn't an increase in income.
Yes.
And so we said, what if we had a solution for this? And we really talked about this. And we talked about like how poor the credit market was, Joe. I mean, if you really look at it, you had it right at the beginning of the virus. You had this gigantic drop in who could get a loan, right? It used to be way over here, about right over that. And today, well, we're right about here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we've been. And what we finally concluded but the difference between this line, which was when it started, and this line here, which is where it is today, that there was a gap of about one half the people couldn't get a mortgage today that could get one at the beginning of the virus.
That's right.
And we said that's a gap where seller financing could really fill a big hole. We've been talking about, like, we've discussed this a lot, right?
A lot.
And then we did a comparison, and we actually ran the math and showed people the number. And we said, you know what, your mortgage payment on the same house, your net income is $1,000 more money.
Yep.
Whether you seller financed it or you rented it, right? Then we started talking about how people were feeling about the economy. And there was a big slippage, right? I mean, a really big slippage. And I think it took it took some time for this to evolve. And, but I think if you look, this was in March of 25. And I think if you look at us now, I mean, it's definitely not better.
71% was the latest stat, Eddie, that said that just felt like this just wasn't the time. Don't buy.
So 25% were pessimistic in
last Christmas.
And so, things have really changed. And so what we now see is the supply and demand, and we've seen a flip over. And Joe, talk about this. Multifamily is like crazy.
Yeah. So almost 600,000 completions in 2024, and look at that. That's since that's it. The largest increase since 1974. That's a long time ago.
In a market that was plummeting.
And they were continuing to build, knowing that the only thing they could do was finish the apartment. They couldn't leave them, right? They were just the knife was dropping, but and it just caused a glut of people moving from, to get the incentives and the freebies from the newer properties. And so you had the properties that were a little older, they were getting shut out of the picture. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And once again, there's micro markets. So it doesn't mean that every apartment deal in every city in the world, in the United States, is bad. But generally speaking, this has been the story. And we look at it and think, well, gosh, we called the ball on this like way back when, but I don't know. So, Joe, I would say here's what I think we have really tried to do. We've tried to look not just at the surface, but what's been under the surface. And Joe, this is how we find opportunities, right? And I think that if I gave us a report card on this, Joe, I think we get a pretty good grade. I do too. Absolutely.
I mean, we didn't get everything right. Nobody could have possibly gotten everything right.
No.
Right? Like nobody could have figured out that real estate was going to go up as much as it did. But after it started reacting, and after we started looking at rates and affordability of payments and where the underwriting got so tight, and we looked at where people were pushing money into multifamily, and we said they're going to kind of divert that money and put it into something else. We started looking at
all of that.
Yep. Say, how does that relate to us in the market? And I think pretty much overall, Joe, that we got to that point.
I think so too.
And that's just our commitment to go help you guys go figure out the business. Let me just be clear about this. Me having a vision of the time to seller finance, that was our vision.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. Because nobody else wrote a national article and said, landlords aren't making money. Banks are making all the money right now. It's time to be the bank which you can seller finance your property. Like, that was a call that we made.
Yes.
But to be honest with you, the other calls that we made were just simply based on information that was readily available and out there that a lot of people weren't paying attention to. There wasn't anything that we did, Joe, that I would say is anywhere close to anything close to. We didn't do anything special.
Yeah,
we didn't do anything special at all.
Yeah.
Except we stayed disciplined to monitor things that we thought were important.
Yeah.
And what we didn't talk about in this episode, that what we've done for the last 5 years is talk over and over and over and over about how people reinvented themselves.
That's right.
And the stories that are in those 5 years of NoteSchool TV are about people that were doing those other things and they reinvented themselves, from realtors that need to reinvent themselves, from real estate investors, people that were invested in other asset classes like multifamily. Like, those were the people that came on and says, I got into NoteSchool's path and they showed me something and I went and checked it out myself, and it turned out they were right. And they said, this is how I reinvented myself. And I believe that if there's one single thing, Joe, going forward, like above everything else, is the only thing constant is change.
That's it. That's it. We guarantee it will continue to happen.
Advantageous for our business.
Yeah.
It hasn't been for 45 straight years. I'm not saying that. Right. But I'm saying to you that the runway ahead of us in this business is very good. And it's because other things about real estate have been affected by cost. They've been affected by inflation and expenses. Yep. They've been affected by financing woes. Like, all of those things that are a problem in the market make it better for us. We do good generally when the banks do bad.
We are in a note cycle, my friend.
I think we are.
Yeah.
It's been quite a ride.
It's been quite a ride. And guys, thank you so much for sticking with us for the last 5 years. We look forward to many, many more years. Share this with your friends, your business associates, everybody out there. I think there's some great information. Sometimes we have to, in order to look to the future, we have to kind of take a ride down memory lane and figure that out. So, Eddie, tell us that last line.
Well, as my coaching students will tell you, I frequently say when I finish working with them for the day, I say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of soap.
Absolutely. See you guys next week, and we'll see a lot of you at Note Expo.
Bye-bye.
Bye.